It's funny.
So then that will go down. Yep.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order.
Pepper. Redline.
Here.
Newcastle.
Here.
Eastland.
Here.
Judd.
Here.
Nichols. Here. Rohrbach.
Here. Could have everybody silence their phones, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. By Councilwoman Giesen.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I'm going to chair the meeting tonight. Mayor, I think his mother is in the hospital, so he was not able to be here tonight. So we'll go ahead with the listed agenda. Do we have any public comment?
Nope, no one here.
No public comment, hearing none. Move on to the next agenda item, the treasurer's report. Entertain a motion to accept.
Second. All right.
Make the motion.
I'll second it.
Chair can't make a motion.
Well, I'm not used to you sitting there. You threw me off for a minute.
I'll second our motion.
Jeez, oh, please.
We have a motion and a second to accept the treasurer's report. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The approval of the minutes of December 6, 2021.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, now on to the items of business. The first item of business is a public hearing regarding the special assessment role for lawn mowing. That's in your packet. The Langsberg City Council voted at their November 11th, 2021 meeting to assess the following special assessment of the following parcel for lawn mowing services unpaid from 5/31/2021, and then there's the parcel number. So I would entertain a motion to open a public hearing about the special assessment.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Public hearing is now open. Any questions about what this is about? We've done it before. Yeah, when somebody doesn't mow their lawn, chief takes care of it, and if they don't pay the bill, then we place that on a special assessment. But that requires a vote of council and a public hearing in case the individual or individuals who didn't pay the bill have something to say. I don't see any comment for public hearing, so I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Take motion.
Second.
So moved in second. Public hearing is closed. So do we need to vote on the special assessment?
No, this was just a public hearing. So next month, then we vote to put it on the tax roll and it will go on the summer tax.
Okay,
It's kind of a process.
Sounds like it.
I think we're up to the audit report. If we have somebody on remote.
I'm going to share my screen here. I think Paul also provided the PowerPoint, if I'm correct.
Yeah. If you guys want to see the auditor talking, you can come around. And our speakers are working well tonight, so if you can't hear him back there, you can come up this way.
We're going
Talk-
live.
Yeah,
I'll talk as loud as I can, I guess.
it sounds like it's okay, so.
Okay. So sometimes it's easier doing this remotely just to kind of go over the PowerPoint. So kind of the highlights are the city received an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance you can receive. It's what the city should expect to get, but it's not a guarantee. So congratulations on that. We also had an emphasis of matter paragraph this year for GASB 84. This is just a new accounting pronouncement that shows the ins and the outs of custodial funds. So for the city, that is the current tax fund. It just shows the total taxes received and the total taxes paid to other units. It's supposed to be for transparency. More of a pronouncement for other types of governments, but it kind of just caught townships and cities in Michigan. So that was a slight change this year. We also had no internal control deficiencies, which is always great. That means no huge findings that we had, no major journal entries. There are no deficit fund balances, which is also always good to be able to report on, meaning you're monitoring your fiscal standing and maintaining it in good shape. And then there was one minor budget deficiency, which I believe you guys had to submit a corrective action plan for. It was just one of those kind of gotcha entries we had to make at the end of the year. So it was kind of an oversight there, and that's pretty common to see in small to medium-sized governments. So overall, the budgets were monitored pretty well as well. Fund balance across all the city's funds at the end of the most recent fiscal year was $1.7 million. This was roughly a $250,000 increase. And then the general fund ended at $1.2 million roughly, which was an increase of $134,000. For most governments, we've been seeing that this year, which is with all the CARES Act funding, ARPA funding that was potentially received, where we've seen some slight increases in fund balance, slight to large increases. So that fund balance for the city was about 106% of the annualized expenditure. So that is a very healthy fund balance. The GFOA recommends at a minimum 20 to 25%. That's also for large entities that receive multiple sources of revenues. So a smaller city, you do tend to see that fund balance creep up. So there's on the next slide, there was just a table showing the fund balance as a percentage of expenditures over the last 5 years, kind of showing how that's changed over the last couple of years. It's been pretty steady at around 100 to 106%. The next slide was just a comparative statement of net position. The biggest change that we really saw this year was just the increase in cash, which was just due to that increase in fund balance. Besides that, there were no other major changes. Pretty quiet year overall, it seemed like. Net pension liability did increase a little bit, which we'll talk about in a couple of slides. This is a comparative statement of activities, which is the income and expenditures for the year. The biggest changes were the decrease in capital grants. The prior year had an ICE project that was going on, and operating grants and contributions also decreasing. I believe that might have been also related to another grant that I can't recall off the top of my head. And then there was a large transfer out this year from governmental activities to business type. That was just moving that whole entire Hogsback ICE project into the sewer fund. Besides that, expenditures only creeped up slightly with some of those ongoing projects and depreciation related to that. The last slide I have was just showing the net pension liability change over the last 5 years. As you can see, the city's funded percentage is kind of hung around 80 to 90%. Obviously, this is based on actuarial data. They have changes in assumptions. That's been one of the biggest changes to the city's funded percentage over the last 2 years. That's added about $60,000 to that total liability, which is about the difference from 2016 to now. Obviously, the last couple of years have had the performance have been really well in the market, so we'll hope that continues it continued for the next year. We'll hope it continues on forward. The city's at 85% funded, so that's way above the state's minimum threshold of 60%. So at risk of having to submit a plan to get fully funded to the state, but it's something to always monitor. I would say 85% probably puts you in the middle to the upper half of the pack across the entire state. So that's all I really had to draw your attention to. I'm willing to entertain any questions if there are any.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you. When fund balances go up, it's always a good year.
Yeah, it's always nice. It's been an easy year and a half for that part of it.
We'll figure
And if
out a
any-
way to spend it.
Yeah, that's the easy problem at least. And if there are any further questions, Paula knows how to get a hold of us, and we're willing to answer those at any time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next order of business is the amendment number 1 C2AE contract for 2021 local street project. Speaking of figuring out how to spend money.
Considering this, over the course of this particular project, it has run a little bit longer than we had a plan for. So trying to keep the contractor on task and staying with it, which has been a little bit of a challenge over the course of this particular construction season in general across the board. We did also include in here some additional value added items that we performed with the work, which included some additional design and work that was added to the north end of Woodbury to improve the drainage that's out there and improve what we had for bank stabilization on the east side of the road. So there were some additional design related items, not just all construction components tied to that. We were able to work with MDOT, and they are indicating that that work will be able to fall within the funding that we had available to us. So that construction activity component of that is covered at the rest of the work was. So we did include a little bit of a summary in there with the project performance, what we were looking at overall. And originally at the time of submitting for the application for the grant, we were anticipating that the city could be looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $295,000 total for the work that was planned, and including this amendment and the additional dollars that have come into play with the construction activities, we're looking at around $210,000 of actual expenditure. Do you have any questions?
So will this complete, I know the engineering work is complete, but I'm still, when I drive down Woodbury, I'm still seeing the shoulder kind of crumbling a little bit. So does this include fixing that? Because I know the engineering is done, but the construction can't be done until spring, or?
We have a couple items that we need to keep an eye on, especially for restoration, that haven't fully come into play, given the fact that a lot of that stuff got done late in the growing season. We're also talking still with the contractor about addressing 1 or 2 punch list items. I'm glad you brought up the item that you're seeing on that edge of the road out on Woodbury. When we do milling and surface work or overlay work, sometimes the existing pavement section isn't exactly the same width. When they pave originally, it will vary a little bit. And then when we come over the top of that with the second project, it also varies a little bit. What we've run into in that particular area that seemed to unravel a little bit on that edge is the existing pavement was narrower than the section that we have overlaid by a few inches. And so that section on that edge is really thin. So when there's any type of pressure that we have on that edge, it's breaking it up in a couple of spots, but it is running right down the edge of the existing pavement line. It'll be isolated in there. There aren't a lot of direct options to be able to improve that without making it a little bit worse. Because we actually have to do anything there, we'd have to dig that edge up and try and pave back a couple of inches, which won't end up, it'll end up coming apart again.
It's all
Yeah.
swamp right there too. isn't
Yeah,
it?
well, it's not dangerous, it's not pretty.
And we're keeping an eye on that. We made sure they had come back and put additional aggregate along the edge of that to make that whole side down there, to make sure that we were gonna have a little bit of additional protection on that edge, so it's not pushing off. We'll keep an eye on that in the spring and see what we end up with.
All right, council, what do you want to do? I would entertain a motion to go ahead and accept this overage contract and pay it, and I appreciate the work that you've done
I will make that motion.
in a $7,000 overage on a $210,000 project is not only expected, but, it's good. actually.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and second discussion.
Definitely a lot better to drive on.
Yeah. We'll roll call.
Easler. Yes. Newcastle.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Nichol.
Yes.
Rollback.
Yes.
Redline.
Yes. Thank you.
I put your 2 items back to back just for you.
The next is the river access site. And I think you got a presentation on that.
Chat a little bit about it.
If you want to flip that around
Sure.
and try to
We all
talk
have
to
one.
both. They all have one.
Yeah, we all have
Yeah,
one.
we got.
Yes, so maybe you want
Just
to
gives me a
just,
little something to point out.
Oh, he's got it. Look at that. He's on it.
So we're taking a look at the approach for what we want to go in for the kayak launch site. And we've done just a couple of concepts to be able to get some feedback from the community, you guys, as well, as to things that are appealing, things that might be a concern, so that when we go through and nail down the direction, we can get that squared away and finish the design. Now, the site in particular has some complications with its previous usage. So we don't want to do a lot of reshaping of this site or excavation out here, because the more we dig into the site, the more we get into the potential for contaminated materials.
Or you're gonna find.
Exactly. So what we've shown so far are the 2 options, just to kind of give an idea for thinking through this process of what we could set up without having to do too much excavation work out here, and still try to be able to accomplish what we're trying to do out here on this site. So we've shown an aggregate drive access and parking. We have also shown some hard surface, because we're anticipating we're going to have ADA access, and that we want to have that with this site. And some of the funding sources that we're looking at potentially going after will have requirements for that. So we do have a paved spot for that location, ADA access, and paved area to be able to get down to whatever will end up with the exact kayak launch facility. The one option could be just a drive-in or parking, or we could have this drive loop in here, but essentially we're utilizing the open area on the east side of the site and being able to move back. And we've used the same location for the kayak launch we've shown here, because that actually is open right now. That little swath area goes all the way out to the river. So we don't have to remove very many trees, and that prevents us having to do a lot of grading work in there as well. If that's not favorable, we can look at another spot, but we're just trying to minimize those high impact issues. Now, advantage, there's a little bit less material that's going to go in here. It is a little bit longer walk and access point to get down to the kayak launch. It is a little closer to our neighbor. May or may not be a good thing, impact wise. And it is a little bit tighter in here, and we have received one comment so far in the fact that we might want to consider trailers. Sometimes people are bringing multiple kayaks or something, might have them on a small trailer or whatever, so we can accommodate it in here. We could expand this a little bit and be able to put parking alongside the drive aisle to be able to pull 1 or 2 vehicles off of the driveway with the trailer in there, but that is something that we kind of keep in mind. The second option is more of a loop around. We've got a little bit of a wooded area in the center of the site. And then it gives us a little bit bigger turning movements around here, so it does a little easier to navigate. We have a little bit shorter distance for the actual launch site, and minimizes the amount of paved area that we would need for the ADA. But we have quite a bit more aggregate surface that's going to be out here, so we are exposing a little bit more of the site itself with that option. We can convert maybe a couple of these types of spots here into be able to handle trailers as well. But this is most likely not going to be striped, as it will be aggregate, so people could use this however. There are probably several other ways that we could use this
I
site,
have a
but this is really getting parts moving for discussion, so.
Is there a reason why you're more to the right, the west side, is it west side? I don't know, instead of the left side, like, is it lower level? I don't know.
This does drop off quite a bit up here, and we want to make sure that we keep this driveway a little bit farther from the bridge, because we're in a curve, and visibility can be a little bit difficult, so we don't really want to have that drive too tight over there. It doesn't mean that we can't use this portion of the site. We start pushing it over, and it tends to lend a little bit better if we're using the middle to the eastern side of the site.
So cost wise, I mean, it looks like there's a lot more paving and stuff, but you're saying there's gonna be natural trees in the middle of this one, where this one's kind of more, you know.
Yep, so this kind of a cloudy type of a line here is actually tree line. So this area here already has some trees. They're pretty small, but it's a little bit of a wooded area. That we're kind of going around it here. So we lose one tree, but we're looking at trying to minimize what's there. This could go just about anywhere.
But this one has less decking and walking that people would have to do, and more area to turn their trailers. And
It is gravel, the majority of it is
but
gravel.
cost wise, if you were gonna look at the two,
Yeah, we haven't run full numbers on these yet.
Whereas for ADA compliant, I'd rather have it closer so they're not having to go
Yeah.
100 miles to go by the river. Make it a little easier on people with disabilities.
In the gravel and work on the second choice, but it looks like you got a lot more options to park trailers on.
you can turn around.
I think second choice is better.
I do too,
Good
but
one.
I think adjustments.
And I like the
need to be
trees,
made.
the idea of the trees being in the middle too. You're not having to rip a bunch of trees out.
We're
So
not gonna-
save two there.
Either one, we're not gonna rip those trees out.
Yeah, we're trying pretty hard to stay away from removing much of anything from the site if we can.
Yeah, I like staying a little further away from that east property line there, east or north, whatever.
This one here.
Yes,
Yeah, I would say go further. This isn't for you, I guess this is the question for you guys. I don't know. Did we ever get back to those people? And I don't know, did we say?
We didn't have anything to
them?
tell them.
I
at
know,
that
but-
point.
Well, if we do now, are we gonna call them? Or how
Mailed
do we
them-
go about
we
that?
mailed the neighbors letters.
Okay.
And sent them invites to all the meetings that are coming up for public hearing that I sent.
Okay, that's good.
Those folks used to
Hoping that
rent
they,
the
you know.
property at one time, what, 15 years ago?
I would
or-
just, if it were me, I would be like, yeah, I'd like to know. I mean, I'm not saying
And
that.
we sent out an
Yeah,
email
that's
to
cool.
our list of people that we had for like the grand opening for the amphitheater. We tried to put it out
Yeah.
as much as we could. But if you guys want to get a grant application in this year,
We should
that's
probably
why the
jump on.
process is going. I mean, we don't have to have a full design, but we need to have an idea what it's gonna cost to write a grant.
The public
So.
hearing, which is
The 7th, I think.
the 7th, right, next month, or,
At our next council
so
meeting.
that's when people should come in and give their input and their
I would,
ideas or.
yes, but we're also asking them to do it at this meeting. We sent,
Before,
this
yeah.
is what we sent out. We wanted them to come to this meeting, to the planning commission meeting, the DDA.
Yeah,
meeting.
it's not
I
an
mean,
official. public
Right, we
hearing.
gave like
Right.
5 options for people to come and give
Yeah.
input, and so it'd be better to get it earlier. I mean, the
Right,
public
yeah.
hearing that night is
It's like, I
kind
want
of,
more.
you know,
Anybody on council want option 1? Anybody on council want option 2?
I go for option 3.
I
I
guess-
like you, like a.
I guess I want to know how much more is this one and that one, but maybe it doesn't matter how much money we're spending, I guess. I don't know.
There's some pluses and minuses. So we have a lot more gravel work, and grading work here, but a lot less hard surface.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
I do
there's
like
less
that
concrete.
better for sure, but.
And it's
well,
easier to
and the
get
issue
around.
with
with the
that
other
is
trailer.
that that's exactly what we're trying to get to, is that
Yeah.
we're trying to give him ideas so they can price it. But if you want him to price them both, we just pay him to price them both.
I would
Well,
say more parking,
Yeah.
bigger area to turn.
I
Option
definitely like that
2
option better.
gives us maybe additional expansion, but option 1, you're
You're
getting
limited.
close to
Yeah.
the property line and you're gonna piss off the neighbors anyway. And, you know, I'm just thinking about the future. In option 2, you would have room to do additional aggregate work years down the road. Option 1, no.
Yeah,
you're-
especially off to the west or east, you could, make more parking if you needed to on option 2.
Dave can go
In-
plant trees
In
on
one,
the side.
you can carry additional parking up along here, and we could add some pull-offs in here for the trailers, but you do have different areas in here where you could add another bank of parking spaces up and along here. Could be more parallel on both sides
mean,
here.
They usually park on the side of the road anyway if they're gonna get. in
But I'm
the
looking
river,
at that,
so-
I'm looking at handicap accessibility. I don't
Yeah.
want them to have to go 100 miles to,
I
get
think
out there
that
to
was
the
way
river.
better, the bottom line. Way better than the
Uh-huh.
first one.
Kind of giving you get out.
Okay,
let me get
so
out.
So these little
Somebody-
trees in
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
are those existing or is it? Okay.
Well, they talk about getting some kind of like they did over.
So we have concept 1 and we have concept 2. Does anybody have an idea 3 before we proceed to cost out option 2?
I think option 2 is a great idea, and the only thing I think about is a possible fence line along that east boundary. So I got a feeling that the property owners there are gonna want that.
West.
The entire length, or are you thinking more trying to set up some kind of natural
Just
divider,
some-
maybe
yeah.
even with
Maybe a
some
natural
additional
barrier.
plantings or something?
Just
like that?
something
Yeah, I
to
think we were
kind
trying
of
to keep it
delineate
more
the-
natural,
Yeah.
was the thought, and I don't know that the neighbor would really want like a, I mean, 'cause when I
fence,
talked to
yeah.
her, she's all for this project.
Is she?
Yeah.
Originally,
No,
no.
she's not the one that's,
Oh, okay.
but no, she's, she just was, I mean, her request was that, that we don't go clear it and,
No, I don't
get
think
rid
we-
of
I
all
don't
that. I
think
mean,
we
I think they
have to
just
do
wanted to
that.
see it stay kind of natural looking.
What's
But-
that?
I think if we're gonna do a border, maybe we don't go through
Right.
them.
Keep me happy.
Dave
Well,
can
it's-
easily
And if you have to
do a tree
expand
border
their
or, I
trailer
mean,
parking, you
Dave
can.
doesn't have to, but anybody could. That'd be way easier.
Well, they got so many
Yeah.
options out there for
Yeah.
a buffer for,
Yeah.
I think two
stuff
is
out
my
there.
option.
Okay, so I entertain a motion to proceed costing out option 2.
I will make a motion to proceed costing out option 2.
I beat you. You
Okay,
can
I'll second it. I will second it.
Motion
Who
made,
made the motion?
I
Dave did.
Oh,
motion made.
I second it.
And seconded discussion.
Discussion.
I just want to know, like, how much are you gonna have to clear
It
out
just
as
gives you a
far
lot
as
more
trees
options
and
on
that
too.
sort of thing?
Yep.
Do you feel
Doesn't-
like?
And your
What's
purchase.
the
We're trying to
total?
minimize
I mean,
that
it's like-
as
it's
much
like a
as
winner-winner.
possible. I think we're gonna have at least one tree. And we still can tweak this a little bit. This line is really showing the canopy. So we have we have it butted up near that. We might be able to shift things around just a touch, but we should be pretty limited to the number of trees removed. Now, we show a pad in here because we wanted to make sure we got it into the design itself. So this would be so that we could have a portage on out of the site and a place to put that, but that doesn't have to go there. We can shift it around. We want to keep it relatively close to the rest of the concrete work though, so that that is also ADA accessible.
How many feet is it from on that walkway out to that launch?
Out to here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's probably in the 30-foot, 40-foot neighborhood.
That's long.
We do have to be careful about where we set here because we have a bit of a drop off down to the river and we have certain grades we have to meet to be able to get ADA accessibility out there. So we'll have to look at, you know, what is this going to carry the surface all the way out there as a ramp, or are we going to end up with a floating type of a setup to be able to have the launch down at the water surface? And part of that's going to be, what does it look like? What kind of maintenance is going to be there? You know, Dave's not looking for a lot of extra stuff to do out there besides just, you know, pull the dock out. But we'll have to take that into account on how that lays out with that bank and what we can do to make sure we get the ADA.
Do we know what the water lines are, low water line, high water line, where they're at?
We shot the water while we were out there, and you can see some of that movement through there, and we'll check a few other pieces of information, see if we can track how far it moves. I was out there this fall as well, taking photographs, trying to keep an eye on when it's starting to swell, what does it look like? We'll get a chance to see some of that in the spring because we're trying to go after the funding sources, and that pushes this construction really off until probably 23, unless something else happens and money becomes available.
Our side of the river really doesn't flood much. The other side, however, we pick up a couple of acres that you can go out and paddle around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this bank is relatively steep. I'm gonna say from the water level up there, we got 5 feet in there contours already. So it drops off quite a bit, and it probably just doesn't rise quite that much that off. I mean, it looks like there are some wetland plantings along that edge, but it didn't look like much of that even carries into the site itself. So.
Any more discussion?
So just a little history on how we got here was that, you know, we had asked C2AE to start looking at this. And then we had some feedback that we kind of wanted to keep it as natural as possible. And so, you know, that's where they started their design work, was trying not to put in too much pavement and a shelter and a restroom building and electricity. I mean, is there gonna even be electricity there?
I would say.
Right, so that, I mean, so that, you know, there's a lot of things that, you know, it's still trying to just be like a little rustic roadside stop maybe, yeah, I mean, but that's the feedback we need. Is that what you want? Or do you want lighting? Do you want power? Do you want more pavement? You
If
know,
we ever did lighting, I think solar lighting would be.
but I think that's what we, you know, in general, we're just kind of looking for, so that
I
they
mean, so
can,
many people love Babcock's Landing, and that's
Yeah.
as plain as you can get right there, and nobody minds that.
so we, I mean, we're not talking about that even being pavement, right? It's just like some sort of
This would
Just
be
in the-
aggregate,
aggregate.
an aggregate.
Yeah.
Except for the handicap area and then. that would
Right,
be
there's a
hard
certain,
thing.
we have to have a hard surface if you want to get, you know, wheelchairs and walkers and whatever, you know, so. But anyway, so that's what we're doing right now, is just trying to get some feedback so they can keep going with a design, but I mean, at what point would we be like married to this design?
As soon as we see a number. I mean, there's.
I mean, there's
there's-
gonna be lots of things we can still change, right, or
Yeah,
no?
right up to the point of when most of the funding sources that we're looking at going after, as long as we have those key components included in the design that can help us score well in that funding source, we can adjust it right up to the point of bidding.
Yeah, I mean, right now, we got a great vision. we have no reality
Right.
except a drawing. And we've all agreed on, the basic layout of it. But if it comes back at $687,000, it's nothing but a vision.
Right.
So I think we need to get some numbers behind it. That's why we are still discussing the motion on the floor, which is to proceed with costing option 2. Is there any additional discussion?
Do you feel like that we hit some of the key things that you were talking about? I'm sure handicap accessibility is probably one of them.
Yes, yeah, handicap accessibility is definitely one of them. The use of the site specifically flags for benefit in some of those funding sources as well. So we're using it for recreational, for water use, and that starts to tie in. Being able to have the accessibility out here will be a benefit to it. And then what we're trying to do here, keeping it more rural type of a setup, could be limiting the impact of the property itself.
And that looks good on a grant application. Because if we don't get one of those, by vision. So we have to weigh design with the likelihood that we're going to get a grant. And if we can tailor that design to make that process look more favorable, then we do.
So we're gonna be at a point, well, where we'll be able to have the design essentially shelved. If so we can be able to
Yeah,
bid it. And then
shovel
if-
ready.
If money comes available some other way, we can pull the project and run.
Yep.
If money comes through the funding source, pull the project and run. If something has to be tweaked, we can still do that up to the point of bidding, or actually for even going to construction. So
Does it help our chances with the grant process as far as Shiawassee and Clinton County both have cleared the river pretty much at that falls?
don't know if that's going to trigger anything for us, except that it makes the river more usable for this. And we can try and incorporate that in there as part of the explanation to the justification. It makes it more kayak friendly for sure.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, you can. I'll suspend the rules and open it up for public comment.
Just real quick. So on option 2, your restroom and the handicap parking is on the other side of the driveway, which I assume is going to be accurate. Is that going to be hard for handicapped people to get across that? Or you're talking about paving?
We'll have concrete come
Concrete
across there.
across,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it'll have a concrete walk. We'll have to drive over, but
That's what I was.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to interrupt.
No, not a problem. Just to be official, we're now back in regular order. I used to do this for a living. Okay, any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of proceeding with option 2 in costing? The sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Next item of business, 2022 proposed park and rec plan.
I'm going to open that up. for people to talk if they have any comments.
Yep.
Yeah, like-
And we will allow public comment during this discussion. Without objection? Okay, so ordered. Getting all fancy on you tonight.
So
Figured
we
I'd
took the park,
run
and-
one.
we took the park and rec plan that we had on hand. And unfortunately, it expires like next month. So it wouldn't make it to April for the grant, so we had to update it. It's almost exactly the same thing we did 5 years ago. Like, we had to, we did this stuff in December, January, we got it done. So I just went through and updated, I did what I could with the census numbers, I found the census numbers and updated those tables and charts and some of that stuff. Most of the rest of it is just like regular, boilerplate, just language that, says, we have bait scout, we have, none of that really changed except for to add the amenities that have been put in. And then, I mean, I think the important thing that we need to look at is the last like 5 or 6 pages where we talk about the goals and objectives of the park. So if people are, asking you, or making comments, I would suggest they look at those pages and talk about those goals and objectives back there. Like, for instance, one of them is, to build an entertainment venue at Roosevelt Row. I mean, do we want to do that now since we built one here, or do we want to? I mean, I don't know. So those are the, I think that those are the things that need to be cleaned up. So what we have put out there for the public to view is just an updated version of the Park and Rec plan that we had. So if we want to add, change, delete, I would suggest you focus on those, like that chapter that talks about the goals and objectives.
Yeah, and this is online, right?
Yep. We did do a survey from like the last couple weeks in December, first part of January. We got a pretty decent response compared to what we've gotten in the past. I think that social media is helpful, We got a lot of people who want a splash pad. We need a girls softball field. We need a RC court. I guess you drive cars and airplanes and I don't know. We've heard a lot of dog park. Yep.
One bicycle path.
I can name probably 10 people that could definitely take their dog to the park.
Yep. So, well, I mean, we did, and we actually did get some decent comments that were just like, comments about things they'd like to see
Yeah.
or whatever. So,
I like the splash pad. I get out of the garden and just go sit at the park. Chill out.
Okay, so you could ask the expert, how much does a splash pad cost?
I have no idea.
A lot depends on the size, but they tend to be.
Rather pricey.
I would say pricey, yeah. That's a lot of stuff going on.
we've
I
had
can get
people that
hose,
want
too.
us to like freeze the tennis courts and stuff, but we spend a lot of money trying to keep water off of them.
Yeah.
And so it's like, people don't understand that, but you put water on that system that we're trying to use to keep the tennis courts nice, and then you're just gonna ruin that. So it's a problem. But I mean, if we want to do something like that, it needs to probably be its own thing. A nice skating
Bottom
rink
of the
somewhere. Yep.
So action by council tonight. On the agenda, we are to review the proposed park and rec plan and then open it up for schedule a public hearing.
Correct.
So the public can have their last bit of input before we adopt the plan. So we're in the review phase right now. There's no motion needed. The next agenda item will be to go ahead and schedule a public hearing for adoption of the park and rec plan.
We do have it on planning commission's agenda, DDA's agenda, park and rec committee's agenda. and The next city council meeting. when this is open. So we tried to make sure that at least at every meeting that is on the agenda until our public hearing.
So is there any more questions in the review phase? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and I'll entertain a motion to schedule a public hearing for the adoption of the park and rec plan.
So moved.
Second.
And schedule it February.
February 7th, I think, is our next city council meeting.
Yep. Before.
We'll just have it during.
Right at 7.
Do you need a roll call for a public hearing?
Yeah. Ready?
Yep.
Geisler,
Yes.
Newcastle,
Yes.
Judd,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Rotabeck,
Yes.
Redline.
Yes. Next agenda item is the 2022 holiday schedule. Does this need action for adoption?
Yeah, we put it on the agenda every year to adopt the holiday schedule.
Entertain a motion to that effect.
Second.
Motion second discussion.
I didn't see my birthday on there.
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
You have the right to vote no.
I'm good.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the City of Laingsburg 2022 holidays as listed, by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, last meeting, we had some public comment about the Board of Review wage. And we added it as an agenda item for this meeting. You saw in your packets that our city employees did some research on their own. And
Thank you.
yeah, thank you very much. And $10 an hour. And I can speak for Finance Committee. Finance Committee would like to recommend to the body of the whole that we up the wage for Public Review Board from $10 an hour to $15 an hour. And that is still lower or right in the middle, or in some municipalities, it's on the high side. But $10 an hour won't even buy a gas to get here. So that's the recommendation from finance. So to move forward with that, we would need a motion to that
I make a
effect.
motion to pay board review $15 an hour.
I second.
Motion and a second discussion.
Too bad we can't get our ambulance crew. There's some more money too, I guess.
Yep.
They're getting a lot less than that.
Yeah, and it's, it's supply and demand. I mean, you got 3 people for 2 days at that wage as
The whole year.
opposed to somebody for 40 hours every week at that wage. And I'm with you, I'm a union guy, pay them all
I know.
$15
I
an
would, yeah, I
hour.
would say that too.
But,
Everything.
But based on this agenda item, is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, to the budget. Paula?
I just provided everybody with a copy of the year-to-date where we're at with the budget and left some lines for workspace. So just look through those, make some notes. At your committee meetings, ask some questions, call me, whatever you gotta do, but
It's due May 1st.
yeah, we have to have a public hearing in May. We have to have the budget adopted by the 3rd Monday in May, according to law, so. Next thing you know, it's gonna be February, and so at everybody's committee meetings, they need to be talking about, what things you want in the budget, what you want changed.
Mhm.
We need to talk about our capital improvement plan. We're gonna do roads, sidewalks, parking lots. We're gonna try to get that bonding done to move forward with some of those projects, so.
Yeah, and the reason that's on agenda item is it comes up about this time of year, every meeting, we want to remind the committee chairs to start working on their budgets. And the city directors. too. Okay, next item on the agenda is the tornado siren.
Keeping the budget.
Chief?
As you know, last couple of years, we've been working on the tornado sirens for Shiawassee County, because right now, basically, it's each jurisdiction sets off their own siren if people are available. So West Shore Services, which contracts to Shiawassee County 911 for their radio system, is putting together a plan to be able to have dispatch set that tornado sirens off at different locations. In your packet is the cost that it would be to upgrade the sirens. Our current siren is only a one-way siren. They have to go to a two-way high band digital system.
that they would shut it off, be set off. Unfortunately, our bill is $8,327. A lot of organizations or townships, their price is about similar, unless they already had the two-way system that they paid for. Just with, there's currently 14 sirens in Shiawassee County. Of course, we have one, like City of Owasso has 4. Again, it all depends on what our current equipment is. This is not a bill. This is just kind of a quote to give the jurisdictions an idea of what it's going to cost to be on board for the 911 center to set those sirens off. We knew that our system had to be updated, so I know that we have set some money aside, but I know it's not $8,000. It may be $3,000 that we have set aside right now. But this is just kind of an idea that to go forward, this would be our cost. For the dispatch center to upgrade their system, just theirs, which doesn't cost us that money, is about $53,600.
Are they gonna do it?
That would probably come out of the 911 funds. A lot of that comes out of the customers who pay for that on their cell phones. Each cell phone is charged so much money per month for that. So from what I'm told is that that would come out of the 911 funds. So this is just to give you an idea that we may be looking at a bill for about $8,300.
So if we proceed with this, and I don't know what proceed means yet, I'm not sure any of us do, but we would need the county then to upgrade their system so that somebody could flip the switch.
Correct.
And if we proceed without the county proceeding, so I don't know how to proceed.
Yeah.
I
So-
can tell you that, we installed the system off the Lansing State Journal on the west side of Lansing. And all we had to do is get a weather alert radio and hook a relay into it to a contactor, and it set it off. So there's possibilities that something like that could happen.
So in terms of action from council, we would just refer this to police committee and city clerk? Or do we need action to, because it's not a bid?
I don't think we don't need any action. This was just to
Okay.
show you that they are working on it because it's been brought up for a couple of years now.
Okay.
About having the 911 system set it off. Again, I don't know, what Dave's talking about, if that technology still would even exist to set that off. I don't know.
I mean, listen, it sounds like it buys us time, maybe come up with some more money to have that update done as soon as the county's done with theirs, I guess.
Yeah, so
Know what I mean?
yeah, so the way for council to proceed is refer it back to police committee and give us an update at the next meeting.
And this
Right.
is being brought up through LSW as well, correct?
No, LSW doesn't own the Siren. City
Okay.
owns it now.
You break it, you buy it. Okay, any other discussion?
I guess we'll wait to see that the county is gonna upgrade the 911 system to be able to activate it.
All right, we have a marijuana update.
In your packets, I put a letter in there that I sent out in response to an email that I received. From the Farrell Consulting, who was going to be here tonight and discuss some things and do some education work with us, but her and her family have become ill, so that wasn't possible to get her here tonight, but pretty much she has done all the research, pretty much what I did, and hasn't found anything any different to what we've done, so.
So we all read the letter, right?
Yep.
Do we have any questions about the letter? Okay. then that's the marijuana update until further notice or
There's really no
or
change.
until we
Until the
get,
referendum, there's nothing
well,
we can do.
no, until we get served.
Yeah.
Then there's something we have to do. But right now, there's nothing we have to do.
Yeah.
And if we get served, then we'll do something. But right now, it's.
So basically,
I'm
just a
sure the
letter being
courts are
sent
so
to you is
backed
all you
up, they couldn't
heard
get a
about.
date on it until
Basically,
after the referendum
We had
anyway.
agreed as a council to refund one of the
$750.
parties $750 application fee. And now they want monies that they didn't pay to us or that we don't owe to them.
Paid and suffering.
So it is simply a threat until it becomes not a threat.
Yeah.
And that will be when we get a summons or not. Or served.
But what a way to make extra money, I guess, go around these little communities that.
What? Agree to have them and then disagree to
Well,
have them?
They really, when you get a certain date is the
Yeah.
problem. Cause I'm reading about stuff all over the state of Michigan and even up in the UP, they're having problems.
Yeah.
Big place, people coming and doing this stuff.
Yep, they are.
Like a headache to me.
Okay. Next on the agenda is December bills.
Make a motion to pay.
I second it. We gotta pay some bills.
Motion made and seconded to pay the bills. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
I,
Roll call.
Easler,
Yes.
Newcastle,
Yes.
Judge,
Yes.
Nichols,
yes.
Rotobeck,
Yes.
Friendly.
Yes. We have 7 minutes for committee reports.
There's a game.
And then Saint Nick is to spank Georgia again.
Okay, the finance met and the only recommendation was that we up the board of review pay. And we looked at the budget. We are also discussing possibilities with the ARPA funds and Paula is the expert. And it seems to be a moving target. So as soon as we figure out what we can spend the money on, we're gonna spend the money and that might not be for a couple of years.
So it's ARPA.
ARPA, it's American Recovery Act funds. Okay, that's it for finance. Is the planning,
Planning commission was canceled.
library?
Yes. We talked again about having enough members so that we have a quorum. We did sort of like what Paula did and kind of give us the, put them on the calendar. The people are trying to be more coming to the meetings because it did not make sense to increase the number because then you just have to have more people to make a quorum. We talked about changing the day and that didn't seem to be beneficial either. So hopefully going forward, the members are going to be more active and be there so that we don't have that problem. We did receive a grant for 5 laptops from the state of Michigan that should arrive sometime in August that people will be able to check out and take home. So we did discuss about issues that we might have as far as maybe making someone make a deposit or some kind of deposit or something if they've inherited or how we might go about that. So we're looking into what we might have to do to safeguard those laptops that we're releasing to people to take home. There was 2 front desk computers that were replaced and they were purchased from the Friends of the Library. It does seem still busy for, even though we've had a lot of COVID and that sort of thing. We did get a grant too of $1,100 from the co-op. So I think that's about it.
Okay, questions of the library? DPW?
We did meet.
Okay, police?
Defer to chief here.
Basically, that was in your packet for the month of December. Nothing real big there. It was a slower month, reference to activity. Also in your packet was the 2021 activity report. Basically, we averaged 17 reports per month. And work-wise, it was about 75 hours per week that it comes out with an officer on duty. Other than that, if you had any questions, reference to any activity or anything that transpired on the back of that was also the highlights for the year. So that was pretty customary. Next month will be the 3-year analysis of police activity for 19, 20, and 21. That'll be in your packet for next month.
Thanks, Chief. Any questions for Chief? Okay, LSW.
That's it. The LSW at their meeting, the first item of business was that the board did approve the purchase of a new tanker pumper. The dollar amount, as everything goes up, is $449,265. This is going to take approximately 425 days to make it before we took delivery. It was purchased, or the paperwork signed in December, because we were given some inside information that as of January, the price was going up 13%.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So that was purchased. With the purchase of this tanker, this will replace an outdated one that is currently at Station 3, which is in Victor Township. So there will be a reconfiguration of tankers, but the tanker that we currently have at Station 3 is not very operable. It'll get water there, but that's about it. The new pumper tanker can actually fight fires because it will have hoses that can come off and be used as firefighting equipment. And that truck would also be a frontline vehicle if there was a structure fire and say our engine was out for service. So it can also take place of the engine, other than it only occupies 2 firefighters versus 5. So that is in the works. Once the chassis is ready, the chassis alone is $100,000, but we would pay for that right away. And it didn't save us a lot, but it does save us $3,800 just to pay that initially. So we look at every way that we can to save money on it. So that would be on that. The other item was the fire and medical reporting. We have to report all our fire runs to the state of Michigan, along with our medical first responder reports. And unfortunately, again, that cost is $2,500 for the computer program for us to do the reports to be able to send it to the state of Michigan. So that was renewed. The other option, other item was oxygen bottles. Currently, the company that we had doing it was bought out. And now the only option is you either buy your bottles or you rent them. And doing the homework on it, it's a lot cheaper for us to purchase our own bottles and have them filled versus renting them per day and per month. So just to buy the bottles was not to exceed $3,500. And those bottles are tested every 5 years, and they're good to go as long as they pass testing. So that was approved. Also was approved is that we're actually changing insurance companies. We're actually going to be going to the Michigan Municipal League, which did start January 1st. Just by switching insurance company, saved us approximately $10,000 just in savings. And we also increased our coverage by going with Michigan Municipal League. So we got more coverage for a lower price. So again, trying to save money on that aspect.
Okay.
Look
Any
towards the
questions?
stinker.
Yep. The only other thing I had is that the ambulance, when they had their meeting back in November, actually it was December, they were 170 runs for the fire, or for the ambulance, and the fire department was at 539 runs. I can tell you that we did end out the year with 602 runs for the fire department.
And we can make 2 a day this year. Any questions of emergency services? Thanks, chief. Any other reports? Anything under other items?
I just wanted to let you guys know that there was no action taken to extend the remote meetings for local governments. We intend to continue to offer the Zoom option for the public, and I mean, I think it worked out nice that the auditor did
I
it,
think it's nice.
that he didn't have to drive all the way here, and then that's more exposure, more people in here. So
Yeah.
we intend to keep offering that, but at our meetings, there used to be until December 31st, if you were ill, you could attend virtually, but that is no longer an option.
And you cannot
Oh,
stop,
the only people that can are military.
and you can offer a remote option, but you can't stop citizens from coming in. anyway.
Correct. I mean, that, as of right now, there's been, that they didn't extend that, so it's back to the way it was before COVID.
Does Zoom tell us how many people are watching? and-
YouTube does, because I post all the videos on YouTube, so we know which ones, I mean, people are watching.
And during the
People
meeting,
watch 'em
it'll say
later.
if there's somebody in the lobby.
Whether they're watching while, I mean, maybe there's some place out there we can check the statistics, but whether they're watching while we're, having a, or watching it later, it's available anytime.
So I
So,
just like it, we get more response with parks and stuff, and I think it's a good idea.
I love having YouTube live, and then I can go back and be like, oh, I want to look at
it
this
helps
little-
me with the minutes
I love-
sometimes too. I'll be like, I'm like, oh, I gotta relive that meeting. But it does help.
It is
So,
nice.
I mean, unless somebody has, some reason we shouldn't do it, I mean, we intend to keep doing it.
I think we should.
Great
I think we
world.
should.
Anything else under others? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.